Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. Today, we are welcoming you to a benchmark of quality, the 2024 Accreditation Quality Standards Revision. After this session, we are hoping that everybody joining us today will be able to do these three following pieces. One is to define the quality standards revision process. We will be walking through that process with you. We will also list the key changes and talk through the new and the significantly revised standards. And finally, we would like you to be able to review and know about the rollout, the timeline that we have, and have more understanding of the expectations around when educators should be meeting these new quality standards. I want to take a moment to introduce myself as well as the NAFCC accreditation team. My name is Andrea Maldonado, and I have the honor of serving as a Director of Quality Assessment and Recognition at NAFCC. My team is made up of wonderful individuals who are supporting educators every single day, understanding the accreditation process, and also ensuring that there are no bumps on the road through the accreditation process. A couple of them are here. That is Mr. Godfred Broby, who is the Assistant Director of Accreditation. Our wonderful Executive Assistants of Quality Standards and Recognition, Ms. Rosa Valenzuela, as well as Ms. Michelle Davis. And of course, we also have our Accreditation Customer Service Specialist, Ms. Monique Tavares. This is a team that is supporting the educators through the accreditation process and beyond. I also want to take a moment to introduce and welcome the 2024 NAFCC Accreditation Council. The Accreditation Council is made up of 1/3 accredited educators, and this is by our bylaws and to represent the voice of FCC educators. We have Annette Eberhardt, who is our current council chair, Mr. Michael Bachman, who is our outgoing chair. We also have Cheryl Hunsenbeiler as our secretary, Dr. Clara Herrera, also Maria Flores, Jen Monday, Sue Hancock, Stacey Busby, and Giselle Asensio. Now let's talk through the NAFCC quality standards. The NAFCC quality standards is closely supported by, monitored by, and also reviewed by the Accreditation Council. Let's go through the steps that the Accreditation Council has used to revise these standards. By design, the revising of the NAFCC accreditation standards is a 6-step process. And this 6-step process engages scholars, researchers, NAFCC staff, volunteers, and of course, the NAFCC accredited educators. First, we sent the accreditation standards back in 2017 to Western Oregon University, where a team of their researchers reviewed the standards. They compared them to the research that was conducted in the last 5 years. So we're talking 2012 to 2017. And then they made recommendations based on that comparison. The goal here was that this team was able to cite the research that supports each of our standards. This way, it allowed for NAFCC educators to go deeper and also be able to use that research to back the standards and know where to point to be able to cite the research when making the case for family child care and NAFCC accreditation. At the same time, we also partnered with the Eco Healthy Childcare team, who is one of the nation's foremost experts in safe and healthy environments for children. They also reviewed the accreditation standards under the safety and health core competencies, and they made recommendations based on research and evidence that they were able to find. Now, all of these recommendations, these revisions and citations then came back to the NAFCC Accreditation Council, where they spent about 18 months as council members, reviewing, discussing, debating, and then finally coming to a consensus on the first draft of the revised standards. After the first draft, this went to the Quality Standards Review Team, which is made up of early care and education stakeholders and also included state representatives. After this revision, it was sent, or the first draft, it was sent to our NAFCC membership and also our group of accredited educators for their review and feedback. This was an open comment and public comment period. After the comments were reviewed, were integrated into the standards, it was then sent to the NAFCC Board of Directors for final review and approval. I'm going to take a moment to commemorate the Quality Standards Review Team. The Quality Standards Review Team is comprised of NAFCC accredited educators, coaches, researchers, NAFCC state representatives, along with other folks who work on behalf of young children in the family child care workforce and in the ECE sector. This team was led by Ms. Linda Schumacher, and they reviewed every standard in the first draft of revisions. They provided feedback on additional changes that they felt were necessary, again, based on research and also their expertise on family child care. This feedback was compiled, and then revisions were made to the standards by creating a second draft of revisions. This is what was sent over for public comment before our board of directors gave their final approval and went through with the final revisions for dissemination to all of you. So after this long review period, and of course the pandemic happened in the middle of that, we are now proud and finally able to share our NAFCC quality standards with all of you. Before we go into the specifics of what changes were made, I'd like to take a moment and talk through and introduce the quality standards and why we have them. The quality standards for NAFCC accreditation are the indicators that through research, through extensive research, we are able to point to and say, these are the indicators of high quality in a home-based, mixed-stage environment. These standards are then categorized into 5 different core competencies, which are relationships, environments, developmental learning activities, safety and health, and professional business practices. Family child care educators achieve the highest level of quality through a self-study process, a self-assessment process that is made up of all these different core competencies. And again, our standards are categorized among these. This is the reason why making sure that we have extensive research attached to our standards was of the highest priority during this process. Now let's talk about the key changes made throughout this process. There were 3 main areas where we received feedback, and we felt, again, through the review, that it was important to do an overhaul of our quality standards. The first item was to remove redundancies and ensure that the phrasing was simplified. We found that by making this change, it allowed our educators to truly use the self-study process and the quality standards as a self-assessment and to self-evaluate their programs. The next big change was an intentional shift from using the word provider to using the word educator. This change was made because we recognize that our educators are doing so much in their work supporting and helping develop the young minds of children. We wanted to ensure that this was named in the way that we refer to our educators. Again, we know that you are playing a vital role in children's learning and development, and you are not providers, you are educators of young children. The last overhaul that we made was another intentional pivot from using the word parents and shifting this to use the word families. This was made because we understand that family structures shift and change, and we wanted to be more inclusive in our language in the way that we refer to families. Through the revision process, it was also noted that we needed to include additional standards into the quality standards that we already had. I'm going to introduce these 3 new standards, and the 4th standard is one that was significantly changed from the first edition or from the previous edition. The first standard, Standard 511, names that educators must have a strategic plan. Educators can have the strategic plan prepared as a 1, a 2, or a 3-year strategic plan. However, this strategic plan must have opportunities for input from the team, from their assistants, from their substitutes, as well as families. So this indicator is showing that we as educators must have a strategic plan that outlines the different changes, the quality improvement opportunities that educators might see within their program, and also looks for intentional feedback from their assistants or staff, as well as families. The new standard 512 is referring specifically to an annual program evaluation. The quality standards themselves can be used, and it is encouraged for educators to use these quality standards as a baseline self-assessment. Now we have a specific quality standard which calls out, please use an annual program evaluation tool, which could be your self-study piece, to incorporate, or that also incorporates the perspectives, the opinions, and the feedback from your families and also from your assistants and your staff that monitor and assess objectives and goals. Your strategic plan outlines how this would look. Your annual program evaluation gives you that best baseline so that you are continuously measuring towards those goals. Standard 5.39 is looking at the intentional training and orientation for staff. That includes your assistant and substitutes. Within this standard, we are naming very specific training that the staff should have. Let's take it a step further and also ensure that not only do they have CPR first aid practices, that they have gone over child abuse, neglect, or ways to be able to identify this. Let's look specifically at the protocols and practices that these programs have regarding security, emergency procedures. How are you training your assistants and your substitutes to know first primary exit, secondary exit? How are we training the educators to know if there is an emergency? How am I contacting families? What is in your plan that you send for licensing? That is something that your staff should also own, that they should know. So this standard is looking specifically at how you as the owner and as the manager of this program are ensuring that all staff are aware of these practices and protocols. The last standard that I'm going to speak on is standard 4.120. This was a significantly revised standard, and it's pointing out two things. One is that illegal activities of any kind do not occur on the premise where child care is offered, regardless of whether you are open at that point or not. In other words, if there is illegal activity occurring after hours on a weekend, but we're not offering care at that moment, regardless of that, it should not occur at any point in time. The second part to this standard is highlighting that controlled substances, items like smoking tobacco or smoking materials, alcohol, these items should be inaccessible to children and not used on the premises during the child care hours, of course, unless this is prescribed by a medical professional. So both of these pieces are included within this quality standard. Now I'm going to shift and we'll talk about the rollout timeline. These are the items, or this is the timeline that our educators can look to for how these standards will apply to them in the future. So the first key date to remember is December 15th. All educators entering into self-study after December 15th will be using the new quality standards. And when I say that educators who enter into self-study, this means that educators are using the accreditation portal, navigating over to the self-study option and clicking and submitting their application for self-study. Educators who do so after December 15th should expect to receive their updated materials, which include the quality standards, as of January 1st. So they will be receiving those materials 2 weeks after. December 15th is that time, that cutoff time. So anybody, again, entering into self-study after December 15th should expect to be observed during their accreditation process with the new quality standards. The next date to keep in mind is June 1st, 2025. At this date, all reaccrediting educators must submit applications following the new quality standards. So that means if you already have or already are in self-study and you choose to submit your application for accreditation on June 1st or afterwards, you should expect to be observed thinking and using the new quality standards. The 2017 quality standards will no longer apply after that date. The last key date I want to flag here is July 1st of 2025. All educators who are completing their 18-month update must use the new standards, regardless of when they were originally accredited, as of July 1st, 2025. We, of course, have resources available to you, to educators, to coaches, and to mentors for this process to be as seamless as possible. I want to flag that there are resources already available online. If you visit our NAFCC.org website, you will be able to find the 2024 quality standards. They are there, they are available to you. We strongly recommend that you take a look at what we have within our quality standards already and play around. Click on the different core competencies, see how they are listed within the accreditation standards. We also have the executive summary that was released back in March of 2024, which outline these key shifts and changes to the quality standards, and where we also outline the key changes or the new quality standards that were introduced. Last, but of course not least, I welcome you to please contact the NAFCC accreditation team. You can reach my team at accreditation@nafcc.org. We are available to support you through this process. We also have weekly office hours. So if you are interested in connecting face-to-face with me or with the accreditation team, please join us at 1:30 Eastern Time every Thursday via a virtual office hour. Invitations or registration information is available online, and everybody is included or encouraged to join us during those office hours. So that way you are able to ask us your questions in real time and receive some information and support through those office hours. Please don't forget to get in touch with us. We are available through social media. We are also available through email. You can also contact the NAFCC Accreditation Council to ask questions about the accreditation standards, how the revision process was made, and thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you for joining us during today's webinar. We look forward to supporting you through these changes, and please remember to reach out to the accreditation team should you have any questions or need clarification on anything from today's webinar. Again, my name is Andrea Maldonado. I'm the Director of Quality Assessment and Recognition at NAFCC, and thank you for spending your time with us. Take care.